Hi everybody. My name is Richard.lesperance. I go by the name of my man Richard. Welcome to A Better Lifestyle. Today I have the pleasure to have Israel Duran with me. Welcome, Israel, to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Richard, for having me, man.
Great, it's my pleasure. So tell us a little bit about your story and we'll get started.
Yeah, man, for me, Richard, especially with the podcast, talking about, a better lifestyle professionally and corporately, like for me, it all started back in 1993. My dad, Domingo Duran, was having a bunch of chest pains on the left side, right, all over his left side. My mom, who's a doctor in Dominican Republic, who immigrated into the U.S. but wasn't able to transfer the license because of the English barrier, told my dad, "Hey, you need to go to the ER and get yourself checked out." So my dad went to the ER, Richard. He spent about 3.5 hours at the ER, and unfortunately, for whatever reason, they didn't attend him. They had other emergencies more important at the time. And I guess he just got impatient and he went back home. And when he went back home, unfortunately, he died alone. He had what the medical community calls STEMI, a massive heart attack. He was about 29 years of age. And my mom found him alone, not breathing. So it's a very traumatic experience for my mom. And I love to start with this history because for me, Israel David Duran, I was only about 3 months when my dad passed. So growing up, I wanted four specific things, Richard, to improve the quality of my life, to have a better life. But I didn't have those four things because I was trying to find them for my father. He wasn't there. So I saw them in all the wrong places, Richard. And it wasn't until, God came into my life and, restructured some things and kind of showed me the path that really is primarily responsible for who I am today. So those four things that I didn't have as a child are the four things that I value today as an adult. And it's what we seek to impart and instill with the people we work with and our partners.
You talk a lot about the business and purpose. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so out of those four things that I missed as a child, actually, one of those four things was purpose. The first thing I wanted from my dad was identity. I wanted identity and who I was. Number two, I wanted purpose. And number three, I wanted vision. When it comes to business, you can't have a business without having vision, right? The business is all about executing your vision, right? And then number four, custom plan. So purpose in business is the most important thing, right? Because purpose has to do with serving people, and business is all about serving people as well.
If someone is still struggling to find their purpose, what would you say to them?
We have a process where we teach the four questions of purpose. I actually have a lot of concepts that I teach by the number four because the number four is actually the number that's connected to the earth. That's why there's four seasons in the earth, right? There's the four winds of the earth, the four corners of the earth. There's four sections to every 24-hour day. So when there's a principle, a law working on earth, it's typically working by the number four. So the four questions of purpose, it's a simple, easy process that I take people through so they can get clarity or, be able to see, okay, what my purpose is in this season. And I can go over those four if you like.
Yeah, you can
Yeah,
go
I mean,
through it.
question number one is, what do you love to do? So people say, well, I don't know what my gift is, Israel. I don't know what my purpose is. Well, start there. What do you love to do? And what you love, I'll share in a moment what it reveals. But the second question is, what do you hate? And this question is so important, and the word hate is important as well, Richard, because it's two opposites, right? And it's two things that are so contrary to each other. And there's a law of polarization that I like to teach as well, where you take something that's very hot and you go extremely hot, it actually becomes cold and you actually get a frostbite. When you go all the way extremely cold, if you go to the extreme point of coldness, you'll actually get burnt. That's called the law of polarization, and it actually meets in the middle, and that's called the alignment. So those two questions to start, what you love and what you hate, the purpose of me asking those two questions is to bring the alignment in the center, which I'll reveal in a moment what those two questions mean. The third question is, what makes you cry? Now, this is a question, Richard, a lot of people don't like to, especially people that think they're like men. I don't cry for anything. Crying is important. I'll reveal to you why. And then the fourth question is, what or who annoys us? So these are the four questions of purpose. What you love, Richard, reveals a gift that you have. It reveals something that you're called to release to the world, something that we're supposed to serve to the world, to the marketplace. What we hate reveals a solution that we were born to bring to the thing that we hate. The thing that makes us angry, truly, we are the answer to that thing. What makes us cry reveals a situation that we were born to bring joy to the situations that make us cry. So we could take those tears of pain and transform them into tears of joy. And the fourth question is, what or who annoys you? Which this one is the most funniest one in my opinion, because what or who annoys you actually reveals in part the people that you're called to serve. The attributes that get on your nerves, the things that annoy you, are not the things you're supposed to avoid, but the things you're supposed to face and seek to serve, seek to transform, seek to make better. And with these four questions, it should give people more clarity and visibility on, okay, what am I supposed to release to the world?
You talk about in one of your videos, you talk about the number one pitfall that people should pay attention to this year. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, the number one pitfall actually is the number one thing that also goes against people's purpose, and that's pride. Pride is the number one thing that will hold people back, and it's a pitfall, it's a snare to have people lose their businesses, lose everything. It's important to know with the leaders that I work with and the people that I work with, typically they have humility where even though they've been successful in a certain area or they've grown or they've been doing this for 10, 20, 30 years in their whatever area of expertise that is, they're still humble enough to say, you know what? I don't know how to use speaking to continue to take my business to the next level. I don't know how to use social media. I don't know how to get on stages. I don't know the online world. I need help with that world. I need to know how I market myself. I need to know how I get my gift out there. How can I attract more clients with these tools that are in front of me? I just don't know how to use them, right? So when they're humble, they typically grow. But when people think that they know it all and they're like, well, I don't need this, and they're shut off and they're closed off, those people typically, history tells us, they don't get far.
You talk also about the 10 unconventional ways to grow your business. Maybe you don't remember them all, but I've wrote them down. So if you could go through them one by one, I think the number one is one of them is systems.
Yeah, systems, man. I mean, you ever tried to build something, but you just winged it? Like you just try to just do it like, well, let me just guess, right? At least for me, when I've done that, it never worked, right? It's kind of like I can never get the recipe specific. Like if I try to guess to bake a cake, I'm not a good baker. I make a couple dishes well, but if I try to guess a recipe, it's probably, especially with me, it's probably not going to come out well. So systems are so important. Processes are so important to not only building wealth, but to sustaining anything that we build. Because most people that don't build wealth, they don't have systems in place. Most people that don't pass on their wealth or whatever they built to the next generation, it's because they probably don't have systems in place. When you study and look, I'm a big student of history. When you study I don't want to mention any big family names. When you study the banking families, the families that have been from like AD, like after Christ, like right there, like the big bankers, like the bloodline of the families, you're going to find that wealth actually travels through a lot of generations. And many times it's transferred. And it's funny because the people that have lost their wealth, like passing it down to the next generation, they typically were the ones that went against the systems that their forefathers set, you know? But the secret is when you set up a system in your business, document it, make sure whoever the next person is that's going to take it over knows how to manage it, make sure they stay congruent with the principles of the system, because that's how you actually build wealth generationally and it sustains over time. When people go against those things, those elementary principles, that's when people lose things and things get transferred and it creates a lot of despair. So systems are so important.
What about the power of saying no?
The power of saying no is huge, bro. I mean, think about this. Think about you have 24 hours in the day. And let's say you had 50 people that wanted an hour of your day each day. If you said yes to everyone, you wouldn't have time to do anything, literally. And that's how a lot of people live their life, unfortunately. Where when you say no and you're strategic with the opportunities you say yes to, it creates a better, I would say, protects your time, number one. And time is how we divide life, right? If I asked you how young you are, you would tell me, you would respond to me with time. It creates accountability and it creates awareness. People think that it's rude to say no. No, it's not rude to say no. It's actually rude to always say yes. When you say no, you gain also a sense of appreciation for your time, and people will value your word even more.
What about charging premium at the get-go?
Yeah, in the video, in the YouTube video you're referring to that I went over the 10 unconventional strategies to growing your business. I mean, that was one that I sat down and really thought about it because when I first got started, Richard, I made the mistake of trying to sell a lot of things at a low level, like a cheap level, if you will. And you could only sell so many things at a cheap level before you realize, okay, I need to charge more. And the common mistake that I see a lot of entrepreneurs, especially seasoned ones, make is that they're typically not charging adequately for their products and services. So I put that strategy in there, being able to charge premium, because a premium value offer is all about how do we unlock more value for our customers. And when we unlock more value for our customers through our offers, that's when we can actually charge a premium, charge something that's adequate. Another principle that goes with that revelation is that which costs nothing is worth nothing. Think about it. Have you ever paid attention to anything that was given to you for free? The books that they gave you for free, have you read all of them, right? The courses that they gave you for free, have you gone through all of them? Not necessarily. But if you spent 100 grand on them, 50 grand on them, $10,000 on them, I guarantee you're going to at least open the box, right? So it's also an act of service of charging adequately for your services and your expertise, because you want to make sure that the people that you serve actually take you serious and go through the material so they can actually facilitate the transformation that you are helping them to facilitate.
You also talk about talking about it, like telling people like what you do.
Say it again.
You talk about talking about like your vision to the people.
Yes, in terms of communicating your vision. Well, the beautiful thing about vision, Richard, is most people don't know what vision is. There's a lot of definitions out there. I give a more practical, universal definition of vision that's been around since day zero. It's been around since Adam and Eve. And actually before Adam and Eve. Genesis 1:1 says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. And verse 2 says, and God saw that the earth was dark, that darkness was upon the earth, and it was unformed, and there was a void over the face of the waters. That's what God saw. So my definition is this. The way you get your vision, what you see, is by the voids that you identify in the marketplace. And then because God saw the void, then that's when he raised up his voice and said, let there be light. So our voice, where we find our voice, is from our vision. And where we get our vision is from the voids. And it's so important for us to communicate that vision to as many people as we can. Why? Because people are out there and they're seeking. And people are confused. They're lost. They need an answer. And you may have a vision. You may see something. You may have gone through an experience. You may have expertise, knowledge in a certain area, whether that's health, whether that's relationships, whether that's mindset, whether that's business development, or what you do, Richard, real estate development. That knowledge that you possess, it's your responsibility to voice that knowledge so you can help others fill the voids that are out there. So vision is extremely important.
What about the fear of rejection?
The fear of rejection, man. You know what? The beautiful thing about rejection is depending on how you take it with your mindset in your heart, it will either be your demise or your catapult. It will literally either make you or break you, as they say. Why? I train a lot of speakers, Richard. We've trained about 1,300 coaches and strategists, advisors, leaders over the last 12 months in our service to speaking brand. And the number one common denominator that people have when it comes to public speaking is not the fear of public speaking, but it's more so the fear of the rejection, of the embarrassment of public speaking. So rejection, we need to take it as something good, because everyone's going to be rejected. Everybody will go through through a process where they're going to experience some rejection in life. It's just part of life. But we need to make sure that we don't allow that rejection to turn into anger, and that anger turning into bitterness, and that bitterness turning into rebellion. And before you know it, everything could be destroyed. So it's important to forgive, to move on, and to use it as something, okay, I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to get better. I'm going to be more effective. I'm going to be more specific with whatever you're in, right? Whether it's a relationship, a business, you tried out for a team, whatever it is. You want to make sure that you take it the right way. And it all depends on your mindset and your heart, and making sure that you see it, that it's happening for you and not to you, because you're not a victim. You truly are a victor.
Some people sometimes try to reinvent the wheel. Talk to us about that.
You see, there's a lot of people that they try to reinvent the wheel. And I think that's the number one silliest thing you could do. Why would you try to reinvent the wheel? The wheel already works. Now, what we could do is we can remodel the wheel. See, that's a better mindset. Because why? If someone already has figured something out and it took them 100 years, let's say, why would I start at year zero? Why wouldn't I learn from them and start at the 100th year and then develop it from there? Right? And that's really what I teach. It's like, hey guys, there's nothing new under the sun. I mean, there's new innovation, right? There may be new discoveries, maybe new inventions, but there's nothing new under the sun, right? The law of gravity is working since day zero, right? The law of polarization has been working since day zero. The law of entropy has been working since day zero. All these laws have been working. The key is understanding the law and then using those principles to remodel things that we know are working, like the wheel or whatever it is, a solution in your business, and really seeking that innovation instead of just trying to create something from scratch.
Sometimes people have a hard time celebrating small wins. Talk to us about that. What's your take on that?
It's all about momentum. Momentum is also a law, the law of momentum. An object in motion will remain at motion unless acted by an outside force. One of the biggest things that you can unlock in your business or ministry or nonprofit or organization is momentum. How do you unlock momentum internally? Through celebrating small wins. Sometimes people are like, they look at small wins and they're like, we didn't really hit our goal. It's not. No, celebrate those small wins, because as you stack them up, it will create more momentum. And once you unlock that momentum, again, it's going to be very hard to stop you.
What does a life by design mean to you?
A life by design means to me a life by choice, living a life that we choose to live, and not just selling our time to the highest bidder. Who's going to pay me the most so I can work for them, right? You may have to do that for a season, but the people I train are always positioned to be able to live a life by design, and not a life of default, by what circumstances thrown into their life. They can live their life on their terms. How? There's a great scripture that says this, Proverbs 18:16. It says, "For a man's gift will make room for him and bring him before great men." I believe that your gift has the capacity and the capability, as long as you know how to wield it and you communicate it to the world, to literally help you live a life of design. And that's one of the things I'm most passionate about, is helping people discover that gift and serving it through speaking, through the stage, through sharing their expertise, through getting their message out to the masses.
What about the importance of proper resting?
By resting, you reign. By resting, you reign. True kings and queens reign by why they rest. You never see a king moving around a king sits and he reigns by sitting on his throne. So in business, we need to set up systems, like we shared earlier. We need to set up processes in place. We have to know how to manage our business in a way that we're staying in our lane, we're sitting in our seat, and we delegate the things that we're not supposed to do. One of the biggest mistakes I also see CEOs making is that they try to put on many hats. Kind of like the hat you're wearing. Imagine if they if you had on 20 other hats, right? That's what a lot of CEOs do. And then they wonder why they get bogged down and they don't have any rest. And they're not able to perform with maximum productivity. And then that ultimately affects their profits. So rest is extremely important.
You also talk about funnels. I think choosing the right funnels, like to take your business online. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, I got this award from one of my mentors, Russell Brunson. Membership into the Two Comma Club for earning over $1 million with ClickFunnels. So one of the hardest things I had to do, Richard, it might have been easy for others, but one of the hardest things I had to do was learn how to generate $1 million within one funnel. Because when I first got started, I just had to kind of like figure it out, right? And fell on my face, made a lot of mistakes. And once I discovered it, like how to actually generate $1 million leveraging my expertise, my knowledge, it became more easier. Then I did it again. Then I did it again. And then I showed others how to do it. And I helped others do it. And then, so now I have a framework in the process where I show people how to use funnels in their business as a system. A funnel is a system, it's a series of landing pages that essentially speaks to a certain audience and allows to connect with that audience, nurture that audience so they can become a lead in your business. And then hopefully you can then convert them to a sale or a raving fan or a raving client, right? So like if people are not using funnels, they're missing out on a lot of opportunity, especially in this day of age.
What are some life lessons that you've learned in regards to life and entrepreneurship?
You say, that's a great question. I have so much to share on that. I think one of the things I would share is the 4 C's of content creation, because these 4 C's that I teach in business and life and entrepreneurship, they kind of like intersect. And those 4 C's are number one, consistency. You see, if you want anything in life, you could have anything you want in life as long as you're willing to be consistent. Most people don't understand the power of consistency. Some people that are going to be listening to this, Richard, may make the deadly mistake, and I say that bluntly, of thinking, oh, I know what consistency is, and then not really take heed to what I just shared on number one and miss out the gold, the opportunity, the abundance that consistency can create. I'll give you one example. I made a decision to be consistent on social media with my posting. I went from getting 100 to 500 views on my YouTube with my shorts and everything combined monthly to now over the last 28 days, Richard, we have a little bit over 980,000 views, almost close to 1 million views in just the last 28 days, just because I made a decision to be consistent. So consistency applies to life and entrepreneurship. And if you're going to do anything in life, be consistent with it. Number two, conviction. In life and entrepreneurship, we have to have conviction. Without conviction, it's kind of like, you're just doing it to just get by. But when you have conviction, people can tell, they can feel the passion, they can feel the conviction that you have. And that then empowers their belief to want to move forward, right? And empowers their vision. Number three, charity. Now, have you ever heard of the word charity, Richard?
Yeah, of course.
The word charity. We get charitable works or a charitable given, right, from the word charity. Charity beareth all things, meaning it endures all things, meaning it believes all things. Charity hopeth all things. So charity is one of those things that we need to have in business and in our life. And when we create anything we create, we need to be creating from a foundation of charity. This is really the secret sauce. When people create their content with charity and combined with number 4, compassion, you will create miracles with the people that listen to your stuff or go through your process. Why? Because compassion is truly the fountain where all miracles flow from. And if you want to create a miracle in your life and entrepreneurship, if you take action on what I just shared with you, these 4 C's, consistency, conviction, you have the charity, and you have the compassion, I promise you that within the next 90 days, the quality of your life will not only improve, but be better. And you heard it here first on the Better Your Life podcast.
What's some words of wisdom you would like to share with people?
Well, you know what? My number one thing that I always say when people ask me that in closing is make sure you discover your gift and you begin serving it, because your gift is more powerful than you think. Your gift is an answered prayer to many. But if you keep your gift to yourself, you are robbing not only humanity, but you're also robbing yourself from living a better life and having more fulfillment in your work.
Where can people learn more about you and follow you?
You know, Richard, I have free gifts and trainings on my website, israelduran.com. That's ISRAELDURAN.com. And if anybody would like to connect, that would be the best place to do so.